So let me first start out. I want to thank a number of people, but before I start the thanks, I want to describe for you what's an official police source and an unofficial. When you as a group go out and take unofficial police sources, that is irresponsible. I'm going to say it again. That is irresponsible, and I need for it to stop. If I or who I designate making a statement, that's an official police source. So I needed to stop. So what am I talking about? There was no confession. I think it was WXYZ that broke that there was a confession. There was no confession. So I would ask that we act responsibly going forward. We had 2 officers shot last night, and first and foremost, we want to find and arrest the right person. We don't want to make connections to other cases that have not been made. Our interest is solely doing it by the numbers, doing it right. So with that, I'm going to thank a few people. First, and I don't thank them enough, but our chaplain corps, Detroit Police Chaplain Corps, each and every time we are faced with a crisis in this department, they come out, they show up, support our team. Our peer support officers, each and every time they come out, support this team, so we're deeply grateful for both. I want to again, I thanked him last night, the mayor of the city of Detroit, Mike Duggan, for coming out, supporting the team. Also, Council President Jones, who was there throughout this unfortunate situation. I want to also acknowledge our prosecutor, Kim Worthy, who expressed her heartfelt concern for the officers and the speedy recovery. But this incident couldn't have some sense of closure without the almost 200 plus law enforcement that was involved in this. And I'm going to give you a few of the organizations. First and foremost, Detroit Police Department, who consistently just do a wonderful job. The scene was contained very quickly, and it was through that leadership and containment that we were able to identify the suspect and make an arrest without incident. I want to also acknowledge DPS, FBI, MSP, MDOC, ATF, Border Patrol, Wayne State Police, who all in different ways assisted us in bringing some closure to this case. Again, 200 plus officers converged on this location to support this effort. So I'm going to open it up for questions because you may want some updates, but I just wanted to go through the whole thing. There was no confession.
What's the current condition of the officers and the suspect?
Both are still stable. All are stable, in fact. Both officers are still recovering. I plan to go by and meet with them early afternoon.
Any idea on motive whatsoever?
Not sure about motive. I will say this. This suspect was very violent. Clearly, he was aggressively trying to kill our officers. He quickly, within, I want to say, 2 hours, he had found a place of hiding. He was clearly aware, we believe, that the officers were searching, and it was during that search that, as the officers approached, he, in a second attempt, tried to attack these officers. Fortunately, he was taken into custody without incident.
Chief, can you talk about the initial contact? What came about? We understand at first we heard they were investigating Colin Rose's shooting, and then we heard there was just an investigation into some unusual behavior. Yeah,
so there's 2 things going on. Certainly, we have been deployed in that area trying to get information and continue our investigation into the Colin Rose murder. However, that was a part of it, but on last night, the 3rd Precinct has seen a significant increase since the beginning of the year in non-fatal shootings. The commanding officer there believed, and we believe, that it was because of narcotics activity. So the officers were deployed in this specific area addressing narcotic activity. And so when they came across this suspect, he was walking in the roadway, clearly agitated for some apparent reason. There was an exchange with the officers. They got out to investigate further, and that's when it turned bad. Clearly, we know that the suspect armed himself, fired several shots at striking both officers, unprovoked.
The dash cam photo that was released, when you compare it with the photos and the video from the surveillance camera from the bus, they do look similar. What have your investigators been able to determine with that?
There are some similar characteristics. We certainly are not ruling him out, but I'm not prepared to tell you he is a suspect. At this point, he is not a suspect, but we are certainly looking at that. There are some similarities in terms of appearance, of course, even the manner of attack. We believe, I can tell you preliminarily, that there's some similarities, but I'm not at the place to say that this suspect is the same suspect in the Colin Rose murder.
Where are we in terms of testing the gun?
It is being tested. We have our evidence in the lab. The Michigan State Police lab has expedited the work that they're doing, but we haven't gotten anything back yet, as you can imagine.
What kind of gun is it?
.38 caliber.
Revolver?
Yes.
What can you tell us in terms of, we know there's a difference between admissions and a confession. Has the suspect in the shooting last night made any admissions that would lead your investigators to believe there could be a connection to the Colin Rose homicide?
As the official police source that I am not going to confirm that, and I'm certainly not going to go into details of this investigation. Again, we still have plenty of work to do.
What can you tell us about him? Does he have a criminal record? What have you found out about him in the few short hours?
What we do know is 20 years ago, he was charged and convicted of 2 burglaries or B&Es, and he's got, I want to say, 3 years probation. No history of violence, just the property crimes.
Mental illness?
Right, yeah.
I'm not in a place to determine
nothing
whether or
documented.
not he's suffering from mental illness.
There's ballistic testing to see if he could be connected to Colin Rose's homicide. Is there any DNA that could be tested to see if there's a connection as well?
We're exploring all the forensic evidence. Again, DNA does take time, and as soon as we know, you will know.
What can you tell us?
One weapon or 2?
At this point, one weapon.
One weapon. Is a revolver? Is that also accurate? The revolver was used in the Colin Rose homicide.
I'm not going to go into the details of that. I will say this: this suspect was very violent. Again, once he shot our officers last night, he continued to make an attempt to engage them as they were trying to gain some form of concealment and cover. And when he left that location just a few short blocks away, again, he was still armed and the weapon was still loaded. So he was prepared to engage the second set of officers. In fact, there were some movements made during that second encounter that suggests he was trying to do just that. However, he was taken into custody without incident.
What can you tell us about the officers? How long they've been on the force?
Oh, yes. So a senior officer, 20-year veteran of Detroit Police Department, assigned to the 3rd Precinct, Special Operations. His partner, 4 years of service, also assigned to the 3rd Precinct, Special Operations. Both hard-working officers, well-respected at the 3rd Precinct, well-respected by their command team.
Not saying their names or anything like that at this
Not
point.
saying their names at this point.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
We have another update later on today.
Yeah, we'll give you an update as soon as I know more. That stuff is moving fairly quickly.
Chief, were they plainclothes 30 series type?
They had the special operations. Oh, you know, there was something else I wanted to add, and then you cut me off. It's very important. I want to also acknowledge Commander Todd Bettison. He reached out to a number of our community partners, some of our clergy leadership in the city, who have been very supportive. That's something that we do on every critical incident. And I also didn't mention our police commissioners because they were also contacted and some showed up.
Chief, can you just real quick comment? Is it accurate, the reports that we're hearing that he may have tried or may have reloaded during the first encounter?
We believe that he did reload. I can say that. Given the evidence that we have, the fact that he was aggressively engaging the first set of officers, and then he secreted himself, knowing that we had proper containment, he was waiting. And we believe he was waiting, and I believe that it was his intent, based on the circumstances, that he was going to attack the second set of officers. So I certainly want to acknowledge the outstanding work by officers from Metropolitan Division, our tactical response unit, who made the initial contact with him and arrested him without incident.
Can you detail that second incident, that second encounter? Can you detail, was he laying down, waiting?
He was laying down. He was laying down, and he still was armed with the weapon. So he had no intent to discard the weapon. He was ready, in my judgment, to engage the officers a second time.
How were they able to defuse it and take him into custody?
It's called skill and training and professionalism.
How proud of you are these officers that got the job done last night?
Well, I'm always excited to talk about the Detroit Police Department and the work they do each and every day. Certainly, I'm extremely proud of the work that True does, but also it's not just DPD, and first and foremost, DPD does get it done, but it's our partners as well. This was clearly a collaborative effort.
Was he homeless? Was he homeless, or did he have a home and have you executed?
I don't want to
a search warrant
go.
yet?
I don't want to go into that. That goes into our investigation, so I'm not prepared to disclose that information.
Chief, when you have that many officers, that many agencies show up in one place, how do you make sure everyone has a role, everyone knows exactly what they're doing, they're not getting in each other's way, that kind of thing?
That's a great question. You know, certainly when you talk about different agencies that train differently, we operate under an incident command system. Detroit Police Commander and first a captain were incident commanders. That's something that I've pushed very hard so that we would have structure and control, because in these type of situations they become very chaotic, as you can imagine, especially when a colleague has been struck by gunfire and you may not know the outcome of that. These officers are relentless in their work, professional, so command and control is very critical during these type of incidents.
When we hear he was shot in the neck, was he grazed the officer, or because when we hear shot in the neck, obviously
He was shot in the neck.
shot in the neck.
Yes.
It was DPD officers that made the arrest, or was it?
DPD made the contact and arrest. I want to give credit to everyone, but it was members from our Metropolitan Unit, True officers, that actually placed handcuffs on this suspect.
Have doctors given a prognosis of the recovery? I mean, there's a big difference between surviving and being okay after a situation like that.
The only thing that I'm hearing right now is that the officers are stable.
And how are officers able to find the suspects?
Coordinated effort. They set up and cordoned off a perimeter very quickly, and that's what renders success in locating a suspect that is burrowed down in what we call a perimeter. He did burrow down within the perimeter very quickly, within several blocks of where the shooting took place. He did that, and our officers, through a coordinated effort, was able to locate him.
And he was shot during the first encounter, correct?
He was shot.
And whereabouts on the body?
I'm being told now he may have sustained a gunshot wound to the leg and the upper torso, maybe his right or left arm.
So hit twice.
Maybe more, not certain at this point.
But he's in stable
But
condition.
I'm told he's in stable condition right now and that he will survive his injuries.
And he remains at the hospital at this point?
Yes, he does.
Was it the veteran officer that was shot in the neck?
Both officers were shot. Okay, thank you.